Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mr. Mighty Slim YouTube channel. I'm your host, Mr. Mighty Slim, and today we have the great Roy Blumenfeld with us today. Roy, how the hell are you?
I'm doing okay, Slim. I'm happy to be here. Happy to
Good, good.
see you. Yeah.
We're happy that we finally got this damn thing working here. So,
I,
Roy, we'll start at the beginning from conception, and we'll work our way up. Yep.
okay. When I was born as an infant, I actually remember coming out of the womb. It was incredible. An incredible experience. Early memories, very early. I don't
Wow,
remember.
wow. That's
I don't remember the inside stuff, but coming out, and with the bright lights and the doctors and the nurses around me being whacked on the ass with a terry cloth towel, it was painful, from all that nice fluid and floating and space. It's a prerequisite to outer space travel, although it was really inner space travel, I guess. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's that. And so
That,
if that's your earliest memory, we're going to get along swimmingly, and I do mean that in a
well,
pun
to
kind of
be
sense.
honest,
So Roy, tell me about when you were a young child, the music that first caught your ear, and when you decided, you know what, that drum thing, I think I think I can whack a couple of things and make some sounds. Yeah.
that's a great question. That really is a great question. At the age of 2, uh, I did my first professional job playing, and they know that's hard to believe. I had good lawyers, though, to make sure I wasn't ripped off, for any residuals for doing that. However,
Unlike Jackie
uh,
Coogan, right? Yeah.
yeah, younger, probably younger, but what I was sitting in front of a black and white television in a solarium in New York, Mount Vernon, New York, and watching Gene Krupa on television doing like one of his incredible drum solos. And I was banging on these little pots and pans my mother had put out there on the floor. And I would be playing on those, imitating what I was seeing, hearing, and she would come into the room and pay me in cookies. It was really a really cute thing. It was my professional gig. It was not, you don't get paid as an amateur. That classifies you as, I think, an amateur, right? But to be paid, you're considered a professional. So that was my first professional gig, and at that time, I was completely struck by Gene Krupa, who actually was playing in a place called the Metropole off Times Square, New York City. Later, I think, as I grew older, I was never old enough to go in. It was a bar, but I'd stand outside and watch him. I was maybe 14 years old. Then
Wow.
watching. Yeah, early on. Yeah, drums got me. Marching bands. The intensity of the Thanksgiving Day parade in New York City had a lot of marching group drumming, and bouncing off the walls of all those granite buildings down the streets. It was incredible, really. And It was stirring. Drums were used, I think, probably to stir people up to fight wars. Actually, hate to say it, but also to communicate. Obviously, Indians banging on logs and things, and early on communications. Uh, yeah, yes, early on stuff. Oh yeah.
So
So
when did you buy your first drum kit, and when did you have your first club gig? Yeah.
I think, if I can remember correctly, I actually was about a little under 12 years old,
Hmm.
and my father fronted me the money to buy a little set of leady drums. It was a bass drum, snare, and at first it was just that. I didn't have a ride cymbal and I didn't have a hi hat. But I was working with a guy named Johnny Bach. He was a drum teacher in Mount Vernon, New York, and he got me going on with brushes and swing stuff. A lot of swing was going on, and I was prior to that. Actually, I played clarinet for about 3 years, and I got as far as the beginning of the tune Rhapsody in Blue.
Mm.
And after that, it was, nah, I think I need a louder instrument. I ended up playing clarinet in the marching band in high school. And I remember the bass drum player was right behind me. And I thought, I think I better get with an instrument that's a little louder, you know.
Mm.
And then, of course, I switched to drums and then, in an electric band. And it still needed to be louder because the technology for recording and playing live had not evolved too much. Really great monitors and all that sort of thing.
Mm.
Pretty much you got what you got, when you played. But the first gig I played, there was a band I had. It was saxophone, accordion, guitar, and drums, and we would play for the Italian Civics Association in Mount Vernon, New York. It's a large, a whole group of Italian families in Mount Vernon, and that we were doing, casuals, and usually at these casuals, I'd always be asked to play that Gene Krupa solo, play a Gene Krupa solo. That was the big thing,
Mm.
and I couldn't quite do it as well as Gene Krupa, of course, but of course I wasn't taking the same drugs he was taking at the time. But well, that I can't verify either that he took any drugs. But anyway, he was pretty amazing and frenetic and full of energy. It's great. Yeah. Yeah, that was around, I'd say I was about 14 years old doing that. But I had a very strong interest in guitar
Mm.
at that point in my life. And I studied guitar with Dave Van Ronk.
The mayor of
Who,
McDougal Street. Yep.
that's right. That's right. And Dave was a real trip. I mean, here this suburban kid comes into the city, and I knock on the door, and his wife answers the door. She's wearing just a bra and panties. Goes, oh yeah, come on in. And I'm like, fairly shocked. And he goes, yeah, Dave's in the other room. So I walk through the hallway and I kind of wake him up. He's like laying in bed after a good bender the night before. Maybe it's the Kettle of Fish, which was where he held court as the
Mm.
mayor. That was a bar on McDougal Street. That's right. And but he would kind of crawl out of bed and strap on the guitar, and he'd write out tablature, I think it was.
Yep.
His mainly alternating thumb and picking techniques.
Mm.
Thumb being 1, index finger 2, and middle finger 3. 1, 2, 1, 3. 1, 2, 1, 3, and alternating. And it started to really move nice. And from that, of course, you would develop a couple of other cross picking techniques, finger picking. And I used to put on these little fingertip brassieres, or I'm sorry, athletic supporters, I call them. Metal fingertips. They look like
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
little athletic supporters. Amazing. But they gave a really great metal, sound and metal strings. That was really, I really enjoyed like using the heel of my hand to mute the strings and get a
Mm.
real funky kind of picking sound. That, of course, I was listening to records like listening to Lightning Hopkins and Jimmy Reed, Muddy Waters, of course, all the all the Chicago blues guys. I was totally loving that stuff. But I wore out the record, the best of Muddy Waters,
Mm.
which has a stirring version of "I'm Ready" with Little Walter on harmonica. But I
Mm.
still get goosebumps. When the music's really great, funky and cool, I get goosebumps. It just like hits me. This is it's a little test. How was the music? No goosebumps. No goosebumps. Yeah. Anyway, so it was cool. Yeah. So that was where are we going with this? We're just traveling through where I went, right? Is that?
We're traveling through now. Now, speaking of
Yeah.
the blues,
Yeah.
we'll be all over the map. Is it true that you met Helen Wolfe?
I did. Well, actually, I have a story that I would like to write about someday would be entitled Helen Wolfe meets Roman Polanski. And to find, if you don't have a whole lot of money, which I didn't, I mean, just circling back to when my father fronted my first drum set, I actually had a paper route, and I paid him back for the kit, which was like $80 or something. It felt real good to do that. It felt like a big person thing to do as a kid. But in New York City, I was living on the Lower East Side, First Avenue and 4th Street. And oh God, there was a band upstairs from me. I feel like the 11th floor elevators or something. I forgot the name of the band. It was, I thought they did Walk Away Renee. But anyway, you'd probably remember that band. In any case, having not a lot of money and having a set of drums in New York City, it's hard to find a place to practice. And certainly in an apartment, because you'd be out of there pretty quick. It's like banging on the ceiling. I think there's a tune I heard by a friend of mine. I think his name is Sleep. Wrote a very, very good, poignant tune called "Banging on the Ceiling." But that would happen. In any case, so I saw an ad in the paper, $20 a month for a sub basement in an industrial building on 23rd Street off of 2nd Avenue. And I got in touch with the leasing company and signed up. I ended up taking a taxi and a small set of drums and a record player up to the location, and got it inside the building and down 2 flights in an elevator, and then walked down a long hallway to a little room. Basically, it was drywall and studs, and I had one electric plug there, and I set up the drum kit, a music stand, and the record player. And there I had Helen at the Moon. It was a Wolfe record that I put on the table. And the band Blues Project, we were at that time, it was going, and I was needing to practice. And we were doing, I think we were doing Playing Spoonful and as a Wolfe tune. The room itself was pretty hairy getting down there at night, because basically when you stepped out of the elevator, it was like a 50-foot walk down a long hallway, and they had just this long cotton cord that you pull on when you get out of the elevator to turn on a 60-watt light bulb that was hanging in the hallway. So you can imagine walking down that hall in the dark part of this place and entering your room, the room for practicing. In any case, that was how I would play music with Helen Wolfe. If asked, did you play with Helen Wolfe? Yeah, sure did. I played with the Beatles. I played with a lot of it. And so that story, I won't elaborate too much on it, but I will say that to describe an old elevator, the ones that the big door swings open, and not sliding doors, it swings open, and then there's this like mesh, a metal gate, right, that you close, right, like a freight elevator, and then the big door slowly closes. So as you get into the elevator from the darkness, when you're leaving the area, the concern would be that that door doesn't close quick enough, because there could be a grisly hand that could reach around and start to tear your head off. But didn't happen, fortunately. Anyway, it's a whole little story that Helen Wolfe meets Roman Polanski. There was a movie called Repulsion. I think some of us may have seen, possibly. And in that film, there's a scene where this extremely paranoid woman, who is a manicurist, who starts to freak out in the movie, being very alone and freaked out. She starts walking in the apartment where she's in. This is in a film. And their hands that reach through the wall to try to grab her, right? That's Roman Polanski's imagination, I guess. In any case, so I was really a big Howlin' Wolf fan, and the Blues Project, I don't remember the year exactly, but we were playing at a place called Steve Paul's Scene, which was
Yes.
on
Yeah.
the west side of Manhattan, 8th Avenue, and it was downstairs. So you go downstairs in this little club, and once in, the guy opening up for us every show that we played was Tiny Tim. He was like the house
Wow. Yeah.
guy who'd open up every time. So Tiny Tim was there. I didn't ever get into a long conversation with him. You know, I actually kind of tiptoed around conversations with him. But you know, one night I've been practicing along with Wolfe Records, you know, and we're playing. We're just finishing up the second set, and one of the tunes was "Who You Love."
Mm.
Jamming that one out, and I look over the cymbals, and I see this huge guy, black guy, coming into the club to the bar with a white shirt, blazing white shirt. And I go, Jesus, that's Wolfe. That's Helen Wolfe. I gotta talk to him. I gotta say something, you know. And so the tune ended, and I like got off the drum kit, circled back out the stage, back around, headed straight to the bar. Steve Katz was also at the bar. So I went up to Helen Wolfe and I said, excuse me, you're Helen Wolfe, aren't you? I didn't know what to Mr. That is his real name. What is this?
Mr. Burnett, Chester Arthur
Yeah,
Burnett.
that's thanks. Chester Burnett. That's right. Yeah, no, I didn't know Mr. Burnett. No, it was you're Helen Wolfe, aren't you? And he goes, yeah, that's me. And I said, wow, you know, I got to tell you, I've been playing along with your music. I'm a big fan of yours. I really, really dig it. He goes, what are you drinking? I said, oh, I said, well, I don't really drink too much when I'm playing. I have another set to play. How about a Shirley Temple? And no, he goes, what? No, what that? No, I said, well, I'll have a Coke. The Coke will be fine. And he got me a Coke, give me a Coke. So I'm sitting there drinking, sipping it. He's drinking whatever he was drinking, you know. And he put his huge arm around my shoulder, right? And in it, he had these cufflinks, right? He goes, you know, I want you to have these, right? So he took off both of his cufflinks that he had and he gave it to me. He gave me his cufflinks. And, you know, Steve Katz witnessed it. He was there. And I have his cufflinks. One of them needs to be a little soldering job done on it, but I think if I actually repair it, have it repaired, and wear them, I might start to sing it like this. You know, hey, this last let me sing you a little tune.
300 pounds of heavenly joy. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, and that, and what the guitar player that used to play with him, I always call him Engelbert Humperdinck, but it's Emlyn, right? It's Hubert Sumlin.
Hubert Sumlin. That's
Yeah,
right.
right. He had this great sound, whatever that sound was. It was such a cool rhythm guitar sound. You know, Wolf. Their whole approach was really unique. You know, to where it eventually became more popularized by, I guess, Cream and everybody else. You know, being a little more straight, less
Sure.
like from its roots. You know, but yeah, that was. I saw Howlin' Wolf at the Cafe A Go Go. It was like the Cafe A Go Go was an incredible watering hole, non-alcoholic. It would serve, you know, fizzy drinks, tamarind, you know, cappuccinos, pastries. It had a kitchen there, and but it hosted amazing talents. I mean, Lenny Bruce was busted there for using the verb to come, and by the New York City Police.
Yeah.
The club, I think, maybe lost its cabaret license to perform. I guess he lost his license to perform for a while. And I mean, others that played, Stan Getz played there, Oscar Brown, Gene Page, and then as the Chicago Howard Solomon, who ran the club, uh, he decided to have a thing called the Blues Bag, which is like 3 days of blues stuff, and that's where all these guys came through from Chicago. Otis Spann, Muddy Waters, Helen, Wolfe, Panama Francis, uh, Freddie Belo on drums,
Wow. Yeah.
Junior Wells, Bucka White, Sunhound. I mean, incredible lineup. And Paul Butterfield Band and the Blues Project. So
Mm.
we'd have a set, they'd have a set. And I think, I'm thinking that around that time, the song "Like a Rolling Stone" was recorded. I don't know the exact dates, but uh, that was, I think you probably know the story about, Al Cooper, who, of course, by the way, as we know, was just inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is really
Excellent. Yes.
well deserved
Yes,
and
indeed.
should have been a long time ago. But uh, he apparently, Tom Wilson was producing Bob Dylan, and uh, Al Cooper was brought in as a session guy to play guitar. Tom Wilson knew Al, and Mike Bloomfield also was brought in. And so Al comes in with his case as the story kind of goes, and when he hears Mike Bloomfield warming up and playing, he puts his guitar back in his case, going, you know, and said he went into the control room. So while he's in the control room, something came up where there was a piano player on the session. There is, and but nobody was on the Hammond organ.
Mm.
So either Tom said, "Go out there and sit down, play something, or try something." So he went out, and he didn't know how to work a Hammond at all. He didn't know the slides. He didn't know all that stuff that you need
Wow.
to know. But he sat down, and with his great ears, he basically heard the tune and figured out a part that worked like a half a beat or so after the main chord. The chords were established, so that
Mm.
it's if you listen to the record, it's a unique kind of organ sound going on, and uh, Dylan apparently really liked that. It really gave that tune something just that he really liked. But so it, the thing about Butterfield Band and the Blues Project, there was that little bit of I guess competitive. It's Danny Kell, Mike Bloomfield. What's the deal? Danny
Sure.
Kell was the hottest folk / electric guitarist in New York, right around
Mm.
in those 60s in there. Of course, coming right kind of after that, flowing in was Jimi Hendrix and Elvin Bishop, uh, other guitar players,
Sure.
technically different. Each really had a great audio imprint uh, style.
Mm.
Uh, you knew it was Danny or Jimi Hendrix or Elvin Bishop or Mike Bloomfield, right?
Sure.
I mean that is to me where any musician should want to go with their music, if that's what they want to do. To have their own, like a singer voice print, if you will, or a guitar print, drum, like a drummer. You kind generally speaking, when Jim Keltner is playing on something. I
Sure.
think I can kind of identify that, or Steve Gadd, or um, Dave Garibaldi. He's
Hmm.
very much so. And a lot of it is defined by the style of music they're playing, by Cooter, you know, Jim Keltner, um, but those days at the Cafe Au Go-Go were really just, in the summer, Eric Anderson, folk singer, Tim Buckley,
Sure.
Richie Havens. We worked the Cafe Au Go-Go, the Blues Project, for $15 a night each for the whole week, and then we'd play on the weekend. And as the crowd as the summer started to come on, more and more people were coming to the village, right?
Mm.
Uh, on a Saturday or Friday and Saturday, and even Sunday, things really started to cook. And a lot of kids were busting out, going to the village to smoke pot and hang out. And they couldn't drink at the Cafe Go Go, but they got out of the house.
Mm,
And so that whole electrifying period of time in Greenwich Village was, there it's reminiscent of if I've gone down to North Beach here in San Francisco
sure.
on a hot Saturday night. It has that tourism, it has fans, it has the regulars, and it feels kind of like the Village a little bit. Yeah, Broadway, right? And Columbus and Broadway. Yeah, yeah.
Indeed. All right. We'll be back with part two.
Okay, cool.